Have you ever wondered why the Irish and the Scottish feel so closely connected, yet profoundly different at the same time? This story begins long before nations existed, long before borders were drawn, long before Ireland and Scotland became the cultures we recognize today. To understand the differences between the Irish and the Scottish, we must go back to the ancient Celtic world, a world shaped by language, landscape, migration, and memory. Both peoples descend from branches of the Celtic cultures that once stretched across Iron Age Europe, but each branch developed in its own unique direction, creating two identities that feel like siblings who took different paths in life. The first difference appears in language. Irish Gaelic is older in its written form, rooted deeply in the early medieval monasteries of Ireland, while Scottish Gaelic emerged later when Gaelic-speaking settlers from Ireland arrived on the western coast of Scotland. Over centuries, it developed its own sound, its own rhythm, and its own identity. When you listen closely, Irish flows with soft musical curves, while Scottish Gaelic carries a stronger, sharper, more mountainous quality. Each language reflects the landscape where it grew. Another difference lies in origin stories. The Irish trace many myths to the Tuatha Dé Danann, a supernatural people said to have brought wisdom, crafts, and ancient magic to the island. Scottish legends often center on warrior clans, Norse settlers, and the forging of identity in harsh northern lands. These myths shaped how each culture saw itself, Ireland as an island of mystical knowledge, Scotland as a land of resilience and warrior strength. But differences are not only in myth, they appear in family identity, and few things reveal this more clearly than surnames. Irish surnames were among the first hereditary surnames in Europe, meaning they passed from parent to child unchanged for centuries. Names beginning with Mac or O told you whether someone was descended from a son or a grandson of an ancestor. Mac meant son of, while O meant descendant of. This created a deep sense of lineage and memory. In Scotland, the clan system shaped surnames differently. Clans were not only families, but communities, protection networks, and political groups. A person could take the name of a clan not by birth, but by allegiance, fostering, or protection. This produced a different sense of identity, less about strict lineage and more about collective belonging. The landscape shaped identity as well. Ireland's rolling green fields created agricultural communities that held tightly to storytelling, music, and oral memory. Scotland's rugged mountains and islands produced a culture built around clans, defensive alliances, and maritime traditions. Yet despite the differences, both peoples carried a powerful sense of pride, a sense of independence, and a memory shaped by struggle. The English influence shaped each culture in different ways. In Ireland, colonization was deeper, longer, and more disruptive. It altered land ownership, language survival, and family structures, creating a sense of cultural perseverance. In Scotland, the union with England brought political complexities, but the Highlands and Islands retained strong Gaelic culture for much longer, maintaining traditions through clans, oral poetry, and shared resistance. Religious history marks another difference. Ireland remained overwhelmingly Catholic, while Scotland divided between Protestant lowlands and Catholic, or traditionally Gaelic Highland regions. This separation influenced everything, from music to education to social structure. Migration is yet another major difference. Irish emigration reached every corner of the world, especially during the famine years, creating the largest diaspora of any Celtic nation. Scottish emigration was also significant, but often connected to clan disruptions, economic changes, and colonial expansion. Throughout all of these differences, one truth remains: the Irish and the Scottish share ancient roots, yet they built cultures that express themselves differently, through language, through surnames, through landscape, and through memory. And as we explore deeper into their shared, but separate journey, we begin to understand why these two peoples feel so familiar to each other, and yet proudly unique. To understand the deeper cultural differences between the Irish and the Scottish, you must explore how each culture preserved its sense of identity, through the hardest chapters of his story bears identity, is never shaped in peaceful time as it is forged in moments of Changalos migration. Rebirthland endured repeated attempts to suppress its language as restricting education and confiscation of land. These experiences created a culture deeply rooted in resilience, a culture that used storytelling, poetry and music as a form of quiet resistance. The Irish voice became soft yet unbreakable, a way of holding memory. When written records were forbidden in Scotland, the Highland clearances reshaped identity in a different way. Entire communities were forced from their land, clans were broken and traditional ways of life changed forever. This produced a collective memory centered on lost migration, reclaiming identity through tradition rather than territorial. Music reflects these differences. Music tends to be lyrical, flung-filed with ornamentation. It often tells stories of longing, loving, spiritual endurance. Scottish music carries a stronger sense of marketuring, the pipes, the drums and the sounds of clan gatherings. Both traditions are beautiful, but each expresses a different emotional landscape, and the remarkable difference lies in the relationship to the Sealand's identity grew with centered on farms, village and monastic scholarships. Scotland developed a powerful maritime culture, a travelling between islands, trading with Norse neighbours and navigating the world. North Atlantic waters. Even their heroic figures differ. Ireland celebrates figures like Cicciolina, warrior bound by honour and tragic destiny. Scotland honours heroes like William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, symbolising national resistance and political independence. The Irish literary tradition is ancient, rooted in some of the oldest vernacular texts in Europe. Isaac is the Tain Bo Quaunja. Scotland's oldest texts often blend Gaelic and Norse influence, reflect a complex cultural crossroads. Ancestry also plays a different role. Irish genealogy traditionally focused on tracing direct lineage back to a named ancestor. Scottish clan identity allowed for adoption into the clan, meaning ancestry is as much cultural as biological. This creates two forms of belonging, orny rooted in blood, other rooted in community and landscape colours. Identity Ireland's soft green shaped a culture of storytelling around hearthfields and river. Scotland's grey stone oak sand mountains shaped a culture of endurance, adventuned collective loyalty. One of the most powerful differences appears in how each culture experienced modern identity revival. Ireland experienced a massive Gaelic revival beginning in the late 19th century, focused on language, sports and traditional art. Scotland experienced a cultural revival centered on Highland identity, bagpipe, Ontar clan heritage. Amok of what the world sees as Scottish today was strengthened during this period. These differences do not separate the Irish and the Scottish, instead they illuminate how two branches of the Celtic world grew in parallel, Semites touching, sometimes drifting apart, but always connected by shared ancient roots. As we move closer to our final reflections, begin to see a pattern. Identity is not a single story. Identity is a tapestry woven from Langwega Merindon's family names, and the Irish and the Scottish have woven two distinctive tapestries from the same ancient threads. Their differences reveal how history can shape siblings into unique individuals, show cultures can remain connected even as they grow in different directions, and how memory preserves everything that time tries to erase. And this brings us to our final explorations, deeper meaning behind these differences and what they reveal about identity today. When we look at the Irish and the Scottish today, we are not simply comparing two nations. We are witnessing to different ways of remembering the past, to different ways of carrying ancient Celtic identity into the modern world. Both peoples share our origins in the early Gaelic migrations. Both hold memories of the old Celtic languages. Both celebrate a deep connection to land, story and community. Transform these roots in distinct and meaningful ways. Identity is shaped not only by what is shared, but by how each culture responded to history. Ireland's journey was shaped by monastic learning, colonial pressure, and a powerful sense of cultural survival. Scotland's journey was shaped by clan society, Highland and Lowland divisions, and the forging of identity through both conflict and unity. These histories echo through their family names. Irish names hold tightly to ancestry, preserving lineage across centuries. Names like O'Connor, O'Neill, and O'Brien carry ancient genealogies that survived conquest, migration, and loss. They represent memory preserved through family. Scottish names connect to clans, territories, and shared protections, like MacDonald MacLeod and Campbell reflect belonging to a greater community, a shield of identity held together through loyalty and shared responsibility. As we move deeper into the present, we see that the Irish and the Scottish continue to express their heritage in different yet profound ways. In Ireland, the revival of the Irish language has grown through schools, music, and renewed pride in the nation's ancient past. In Scotland, Gaelic culture lives strongly in the Highlands, the islands, and the growing movement to preserve the language and traditions for future generations. But identity is not only about the past, it is about how people today understand who they are and where they belong. For millions of people around the world with Irish or Scottish ancestry, these differences help explain why their family stories feel the way they do, why their surnames sound the way they sound, and why their traditions carry certain memories more strongly than others. The Irish inheritance often feels mystical, emotional, and tied to resilience. The Scottish inheritance often feels communal, brave, and tied to the strength of belonging. Both are beautiful expressions of Celtic identity. Both reveal how deeply history can shape the human spirit, and perhaps the most fascinating truth of all is this: the Irish and the Scottish are not divided by their differences. They are enriched by them. They represent two expressions of the same ancient world, to reflections of Celtic memory, to ways of carrying forward the voices of the past. Their languages, their stories, their music, their surnames all carry a message across time, a message about who they were, who they became, and who we are today as their descendants. If you carry an Irish surname, you're a story of lineage, heritage, and ancestral continuity. If you carry a Scottish surname, you're a story of belonging, community, and collective identity. And if you carry both, you carry a rare and powerful inheritance, a bridge between two branches of the Celtic world. As we end this journey, one truth remains clear: the Irish and the Scottish share ancient roots, but their identities were shaped by different landscapes, different histories, and different memories, each unique, each powerful, each essential to understanding the Celtic story. And in learning their differences, we learn more about ourselves, our families, our heritage, and the deep connections that tie us to the past.